Greetings everyone, this is Sharon and I stand before you to speak about the gap between constitutional promises and ground realities. Now, very first thing, when I got the topic, I instantly went to the Constitution. I opened it up in the Bare Act, and one very unique thing about our Constitution that I find very unique is that equality, जो समानता है, that is placed before our rights. Article 14 to 18, जैसे कि सबने बताया है, I've mentioned this all the time that the equality is placed before even our rights. Why so? Because the social structure in this country, the social paradigm, the social nexus, it's so complex that we need a just and social equality before even our rights. Now, the constitutional promises, there are promises, yes, we all know, and everyone has mentioned that. I'll not be talking about the rights, I'll not be talking about facts, data, and figures. But social justice for the marginalized. Now, who are the marginalized? Every one of you has mentioned and must have prepared about the scheduled communities, minorities, the other vulnerable groups, including women. But I went one step ahead and I thought about what are the marginalized groups that are not even talked about. We always think about the marginalized group, but our vision never extends to a third sex child who was abandoned at birth. Our vision does not extend to a sanitation worker who's not using any protective gear and going to a manhole. Our vision does not extend to a person with disability who is not having access to a public office. I'll be speaking about my personal experiences that I've had. A couple of years ago, I was filling up a form of government or college, and it was a state university. I won't mention, I don't remember exactly, but there were only two genders. Even the state, after having the NALSA judgment, even the state is reverting to two genders. What about the third gender that is talked about under Article 14 and 15, talking about equality and no discrimination on the basis of sex? But we often revert only to two sexes, not to the third sex. Coming to person with physical disability. I've seen only a couple of days ago, I visited a public office of a high-ranking official. Accessible ramp to tha wahan. 2016 का जो अधिनियम है Persons with Rights for Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, there was accessible ramp. It says that accessible ramp has to be there in all the public offices. But when I went there, the accessible ramp was blocked by parking of the cars of officers. अगर कोई अपाहिज आता है, he does not or she does not even have any access to the public office. And this I'm talking about a high-ranking public official. Let aside be the Gram Sabhas, Gram offices or the block offices. Now, with limited mobility, that brings me to another people who definitely are a very large community, the tribals, and that too the denotified tribals that carry on the colonial legacy. Even today, as per a report, there are more than 10 crore people not having stable documents. Not having stable documents, they have no address, whether it be the slum, people living in the slum or the urban dwellers, they do not have proper address. No address gives them no access to welfare scheme. No welfare scheme gives them access to no address. The vicious cycle continues. Now, all these vulnerable groups, not just the scheduled communities, the minorities, the third sex, the climate marginalized people due to climate vulnerabilities such as disaster prone areas, living in the coastal regions, all these, we have for each and every community or group, our constitution does promise something or the other, or our statutes promise something or the other, which is based definitely on the constitution itself. But today, we definitely know that there is a lack in the implementation, there are a lot of lacunas, there are a lot of problems, there are a lot of hindrances or bottlenecks, so to say. But what makes the constitution still living is people like you, people like me, who are still working, and some people have said that constitution aaj kaam nahi kar raha hai ya fir it's not going on. I do not believe so, because I always say this and I've heard this line, that it's not the constitution that has failed us or failing us. It is we who are failing the constitution. It is incumbent upon all of us to shoulder the responsibility to implement the gaps that we have in the ground reality. And I just halt my speech here by saying that democracy is not a safe harbor to place ourselves. It's a ceaseless endeavor that must go on, and we must adhere to the constitution, not just in letter, but in spirit as well. Thank you for being such a good audience. Thank you, everyone.